From Nashville's WSM Radio, the original home of the Grand Ole Opry, this is a Coffee, Country, and Cody podcast.
Hey, it's Charlie Matos, and in this episode of our Coffee, Country, and Cody podcast, we sit down with Country Music Hall of Famer Ray Stevens. Get you caught up on everything happening at Ray's beautiful showroom, Caba-Ray. We'd also share some great memories on some of Ray's biggest hits and memories of a fellow inductee into the Country Music Hall of Fame, the late Jerry Bradley. Enjoy our Coffee, Country, and Cody podcast with Ray Stevens.
Here he is, the one, the only, Ray Stevens.
I've climbed up the Eiffel Tower, floated down the River Nile, seen the bullfights in Madrid, and watched those senoritas smile.
Oh, I love that song, Nashville. That is Ray Stevens, and he's in studio with us this morning. Ray Stevens, Caba-Ray. You were referencing a lot of world spots in that song, and we were just talking about World Cup soccer. Charlie had that, and then you got to go back and reveal to the audience what you were sharing. You know what I did one time? Tell us what you did one time.
Well, one time when I was younger, now I don't like to, would not do this, but I caught a plane in Nashville, flew to Dallas, changed planes, flew to San Francisco, changed planes, flew to Honolulu, changed planes, flew to Tahiti, changed planes, flew to Auckland, New Zealand, changed planes, flew to Sydney, Australia, changed planes, flew to Melbourne, Australia, changed planes, flew to Hobart, Tasmania, rehearsed the band, and did 2 shows before I went to sleep. All of that and stayed awake the whole time.
How many hours was that?
I don't know.
You don't recall?
Oh. I can't.
But you just shared something in telling that story because you didn't get to finish it off the air. So you got to tell that on the air. Now that we know you were there to perform in Tasmania, you said it is the
Yes.
Las Vegas of Australia?
I think so, yes. Tasmania, home of birthplace of Errol Flynn, was the Las Vegas of Australia off the southern coast. And quite a pretty town, little town. I played a place called the Rest Point Casino, and it was great. They had a big orchestra, you know.
Well, if people go see you at the Caba-Ray, they will quickly realize that the architecture you have taken from lots of different places that you have played all over the world. I'm sure you kept filing away through the years. Hey, if I ever have a place, I want it to do some of that, some of this, some of that.
Yeah.
And you've pulled that off at the Caba-Ray showroom for the remaining month of July, and then August and September. You will be performing every Saturday night.
Right.
For these next 3 months. VIP tickets, standard seating, balcony seating. There's a dinner option available, too, for all the shows. Ray Stevens, Caba-Ray.com.
It's gorgeous. I was there when you broke ground, when we were there and turned over the first shovel of dirt. And then watching it come up and become this incredible place all the way through COVID, which was a little scary there for a while.
COVID was bad.
That was scary. But then seeing it come alive and seeing all these people that come out, what does that feel like to you? Because this was all in your head and now it's a reality.
Well, I'm very proud of the Caba-Ray, and, I kind of... go there every day. My offices are there also, and I go there every day, and every day I go, wow, this is still pretty, you know.
So what do you think when you drive by 17th and Grand these days?
I don't drive by 17th and Grand. It's too crowded. There's a traffic jam 24/7 there. You know,
I drive by all the time.
For those of you who don't know, that's the former location where you were headquartered. For how many years were you?
Oh gosh, 19. I built the first studio on Grand Avenue in 1970, and then I built the one across the street in 73. So I've
50 years,
location,
50
and
years
I
plus.
kept buying adjacent properties.
Right.
And when I wound up owning a half a block there where my offices were, 17th and Grand, and I built this studio, the first one across the street, and spent a ton of money. Could not get arrested with a hit in that studio. Couldn't cut a hit for love nor money. Went across the street, spent $3.80, built a little baling wire studio, and the first song I cut was The Streak.
Location.
And who was it? You told me, was it Chet who encouraged you to get into real estate with the money that you made in the music business early on?
Inadvertently, he and Owen did, because I had some money made from royalties, record, and traveling on the road. And I said, well, what am I going to do with this? And I looked around, and Chet and Owen were buying those little houses down there. So I said, well, these guys are pretty smart. I think I'll do that too.
Yeah.
And so later on, Chet and I bought some things together. But that's what gave me the idea.
Chet and Owen, of course, Chet Atkins, Owen Bradley. We're going to talk about Jerry Bradley's passing coming up here in a little bit, too.
So, Ray, who gets credit for coming up with the clever Caba-Ray, R-A-Y?
You know, my brother John. He said, you ought to call it Caba-Ray, R-A-Y. And I said,
there it is. Yeah, love it.
But you capitalize the R. People need to know that. You don't have to capitalize it when you type it into the search bar. But it's capitalized on the side.
Well, you know, you'd be surprised. A lot of people think that's the correct spelling. Well, a lot of my friends do.
Yeah.
People can come out and tell everybody what they can expect if they haven't been. It's gorgeous, and we showed some of the video, but it's more than that. It's a full night.
Oh, sure. We've got a piano bar, and John Janethis, who is the best.
He's the master.
Is working the piano bar, and we have food if you want it, and it's, I'm told, very good. The kitchen does a wonderful job. You don't have to have food if you just want to see the show. That's fine too. But and after the show, the piano bar stays open for people to go in and hear John and have a drink or whatever. And it's just a lot of fun. You know, it's the way Vegas used to be a long time ago. As a matter of fact, the showroom downstairs has tables as opposed to theater seating. Of course, in the balcony, we have theater seating. But downstairs, it's really a lot of fun. We can hold 500 people downstairs at tables. And they get the experience of sitting with their friends and having a bite or having a drink and seeing the show. And it's kind of a lot different than normal theater seating venues.
Yeah, RayStevensCabaret.com. All right, we're going to play Everything is Beautiful, the original.
Uh-oh.
Your daughter's, Susie's, what was the school?
Well,
the choir,
it was
or was it a
Oak Hill.
church? Oak Hill
School out on Franklin Road.
All right. And how old are these kids that are on the record?
Well, they were second grade. I have two daughters. One was in the second grade, and the other was in another grade. But they all got together in the second grade, and the teacher, second grade teacher, played the piano.
Aww.
And they sang Jesus Loves the Little Children. I took a little tape recorder out there with Charlie Talent, who was the engineer at Jack Clement's studio. And we cut this, took it back to the studio, and spliced it onto the record that was already cut. And then I overdubbed strings, and we covered the splice with a string chord. And it just worked beautifully, you know.
Ray Stevens. Hey, boy, I'm telling you, this is a masterpiece. And his theme on WSM Radio and Coffee, Country, and Cody, Circle Television.
Jesus loves the little children, all the children of the world. Red and yellow, black and white, they are precious in His sight. Jesus loves the little children of the world.
Everything is beautiful in its own way, like a starry summer night or a snow-covered winter's day.
My heart keeps going home to Nashville. Yeah, that's the only place for me. My love is waiting there.
In Nashville with Ray Stevens this morning on Coffee Country and Cody, WSM Radio, Circle Television. I saw Tommy White sitting there playing a steel guitar lick from the stage of the Grand Ole Opry.
He's really
We
good.
see, yeah, he's a steel guitar Hall of Famer. Ray, a 2019 inductee into the Country Music Hall of Fame, and performing every Saturday night, 7:30, Caba-Ray Showroom, July and August, September. You can go to his website. It's RayStevensCabaret.com, and go ahead and get your tickets, VIP tickets, standard seating available, balcony seating, dinner options, RayStevensCabaret.com.
We might even spill over into October, November.
Oh, good. Okay.
How much is parking, Ray?
Parking is, I'm sorry to have to say this, but it's free.
Whoa!
For now.
Well, yeah, for the foreseeable future.
When you look around and see what they're getting for parking in this
I
town.
mean, even if it was just a couple dollars, you'd get something for it.
Yeah, but we don't mess around. We go the whole distance.
Well,
Free
you know,
parking.
we used to laugh because Acuff would say about Opryland back in the day. Say, "Oh, yeah, let them in free. Charge them dearly for the food." 2019 inductee into the Country Music Hall of Fame. You went in with Brooks and Dunn, and you went in with Jerry Bradley,
Yeah.
whom he just passed away, and that news came as a shock to me.
Yeah.
You guys go back how far? When did you first meet? Because you mentioned Owen, his father, earlier.
I met him in the early 60s, I moved here in 62 from Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And, I moved to Nashville. Atlanta was back then like Nashville is now. Traffic everywhere and just crowded. And I moved here and I went, whew, I'm living in a place now that you can drive around and, it's really nice.
Yeah.
And that's when I met Jerry.
And you worked together. What was it? What did I see the other day? I was reading and your name came up. Was it Shriners Convention?
Well, yeah, I cut the Shriners Convention, and Jerry was running RCA at that time, and he got a guy named, Phil, I forget his name, but a great cartoonist. The cartoons he drew looked like Mad Magazine, if you remember the style of that.
Yeah, sure.
And he got this guy to draw the cover of the Shriners Convention album, and it was terrific. And that was our first endeavor as far as recording, and I was on RCA at the time.
I love hearing the stories that you share with Ralph, because Ralph is the one that brought me to town. And I remember, I think our first or second show on the air, you were there. You were one of the very first guests, one of the very first people I got to meet in town. Give me a story about Ralph that you remember that touched your heart, because it breaks my heart that he's gone.
Oh, yeah. Ralph was one of a kind, and he used to get up at the crack of dawn, and then he got tired of that, so I guess he stopped doing that.
He did.
And we used to have, we still have a breakfast at this place in town every Saturday morning, and it used to be at 7 o'clock. A bunch of guys in the music business meet on Saturdays, and Ralph used to come, and finally he said, guys, let's just move this to 8. Is that going to kill anybody to sleep another hour? And so we said, you got it, Ralph. And I was secretly very thankful that he brought it up. So we started meeting at 8, and it was all due to Ralph's diligence.
We see you frequently at the Grand Ole Opry. Back in those early days, you said you got here in 62. How long was it before you played the Opry?
Gosh, I don't know. But I played it. I mean, I've been playing it over the years for 30, 40, 50 years. How long have I been here?
Well, let's see. We left the Opry at the Ryman in 74.
Yeah.
We came out here in 74.
Yeah. I remember my grandmother, one of my grandmothers, loved the Grand Ole Opry, and she loved Minnie Pearl. And so when I first moved up here, she came up, and I took her to the Opry. You should have seen the look on her face. It was priceless. She had such a great time at the Opry. And, I'll never forget that. I was so glad I could do that.
So do you have a memory of the first night you would have played? You would have been at the Ryman in those days, certainly.
Yeah,
No?
I have trouble remembering what I had for breakfast. Whew. My memory is thing of the past.
But your career has taken you, we were talking about cities that are mentioned in Nashville. It has taken you all over the world.
Oh yeah, sure. I, in 69, oh gosh, it was earlier than that. I forget when it was. Roger Miller was managed by a guy named Don Williams, who was Andy Williams' brother. Mm-hmm. And Roger said to Don, his manager, said, "You need to manage Ray Stevens also." So Don called me one day and said, "Do you have a manager?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, do you want one?" And I said, "Well, I don't know." He said, "Well, I'm coming to town next week. Let's have lunch." And we had lunch the following week, and I signed with him as an artist to be my manager. And then in 1969, Christopherson moved into town and wrote some songs for Bob Beckham, Combine Music, Fred's company. And Bob was a good friend. He called me and he said, "You need to come hear these songs. This new guy named Christopherson is a great writer, and you might want to cut one of these." So I went down, and he played me For the Good Times, to help me make it through the night, and Sunday Morning Coming Down. And I said, "Oh, I love that Sunday Morning Coming Down. I'd love to cut that." And I did. And I had the record almost finished, and I got a call from Hal David, who wrote lyrics with Burt Bacharach. And they had written a song for what they called a cowboy movie. And they wanted me to sing it in the movie. And so I flew to Hollywood and heard the song, and I liked it, but I had spent so much time in the studio making Sunday Morning Coming Down, I thought, well, if I don't put this out, somebody else will beat me out with a record of Sunday Morning Coming Down. So I very respectfully passed on this movie song that Bacharach had written with Hal David, and put out Sunday Morning Coming Down and sold 12. And we had to give 6 of them away for promotion, So they got B.J. Thomas to sing the movie song, and he sold zillions. And I was about to ready to pull a knife on myself for being so stupid. But about that time...
that song was Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head.
Well, yes. And Andy Williams called me, Don's brother, and said, "Would you like to host the Andy Williams Summer Show on NBC?" And I said, "Oh, let me think about it. Yes." So I took the bullets out of the gun and...
Did you at any point have B.J. Thomas as a guest?
Oh, sure. Of course I did. But I started writing songs immediately. I wanted to write a song that could be used as the theme for that television show. And I wrote a song that I thought could do it. And they said, yes, this can be the theme. And so I went in the studio and made the record. Record came out before the show aired. And the record was a big hit. It was Everything Is Beautiful. And I won a Grammy that year for the best male vocal in 1970. So I think the impetus for writing that song might have been disappointment in turning down Raindrops.
Oh, worked out. It all worked out in the end.
Yes, and the purveyor of the pocket silk have learned from the best, ladies and gentlemen.
Have.
Yes, and I see you're learning how to fold it, too.
Yes.
Looks very...
Yes, I practice because
very
of you.
Chic. Yes.
Thank you for coming to see me, Ray. This is Coffee Country and Cody. Ray Stevens, you want to find out more about these upcoming shows, particularly July, the remainder of July, August, September, Saturday night, 7:30. Dinner's at 5:30 if you participate in the dinner option. VIP tickets, standard seating, balcony seating. It's simply RayStevensCaba-Ray.com.
Thanks for listening to the Coffee, Country, and Cody podcast. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And please leave us a 5-star review. This podcast was produced through the facilities of WSM Radio in Nashville, Tennessee. The hosts of Coffee, Country, and Cody are Bill Cody, Charlie Matos, and Kelly Sutton. Producer, Eric Markham. WSM General Manager and Director of Content and Programming, J. Patrick Tittle. Copyright 2023. Opry Entertainment Group Holdings, LLC.